So this is from the television show that was called Firing Line, hosted by William F. Buckley, Jr. Now his guest is Malachi Martin, who is a Jesuit priest. Now I want to show you the opening, then I want to show you the true identity of Malachi Martin. Now notice they don't really show you the face over here. This is supposed to be Malachi Martin. They don't really show you his face. And throughout the interview you'll never see the two of them spliced together like this. But they're splicing film.
There is a new pope, and at least for a little while, everyone, Catholics of course, but also Protestants, Jews, believers, non-believers, will speculate on the question, what will he do? For the most part, a good pope.
Now did you notice there was a hand wave over here, and that's to try to get you to believe that Malachi Martin is seated over here.
Pope is defined as someone who does what the critic would do if he were pope. The suddenness of the election of Albino Luciani left the journalistic world for once speechless. On the day after it happened, I was seated between man and wife, and she confessed some disappointment at the initial allocution of the Pope. Her husband replied with some impatience, "How would you express yourself if you suddenly woke up infallible?" Although a great many people have in recent months talked about a new Pope and his likely policies, no one has aroused more attention than Malachi Martin.
Now notice, you don't see the two of them together. It's a flash over. Now they're going to try to splice them together, but I'll show you how it's just spliced film.
Whose book, The Final Enclave, described a fictitious scene in which the modern Catholic Church would more or less terminate, its successor inspirited by a kind of third world Christianity, shorn of the traditional liturgy's hierarchy and protocols. Critics did not quite know what to make of the book, but everyone notices what Malachi Martin says and writes about because of his background, his training, the force of his intellect, and his imaginative ingenuity. Mr. Martin was once Father Martin, a Jesuit priest, trained in theology at Louvain, specialist in the Dead Sea Scrolls with a doctorate in Semitic languages, archaeology, and Oriental history, close associate of Cardinal Bayer and of Pope John XXIII, an Irishman who has become an American citizen, author of 3 Popes and the Cardinal.
This is how they do it. They build up the credibility of a speaker by all these things that supposedly the speaker has done. But behind the scenes, the books that were written and all those things were done by someone else, and the one who's on the scene is just simply an actor. That explains all of your hoax history. That explains your hoaxology.
Jesus Now and other books, and religious editor for National Review. Our examiner today will be Mr. Jeff Greenfield, who will be introduced later. I should like to begin by asking Mr. Martin to comment on a few sentences he wrote in 1974.
Now see, that's spliced. You can see, look where his knee is. Look how high this is. And look where those knees are. Okay? And look how close. They're blended together, the images. Can you see how it's sort of blended together? So what they did was they shot this separately from this. And they blended them together here, and then throughout the so-called interview, you'll just see the face of Malachi Martin versus the face of William F. Buckley, Jr. I'll play it for another second, then I'll show you they're one and the same.
4. About the next Pope. He said then that the next conclave would, and I quote him, be the most important and the most difficult papal election in about 4.
Notice how he's just staring off. He's not really looking at him. He's staring off at something in the distance while they're filming this half here and then somehow creating it spliced together. look how the book or the paper sort of runs into the arm of Malachi Martin. And once again, the height of the knee here, look, it's about 2 feet higher than this one here. How could that be? When it's a level platform and the chairs are identical.
400 years. Is it your impression that this turned out to be so?
Yes, Mr. Buckley, it really it was and still is that, because at that conclave, if we take conclave as including the period from the death of Paul
Now
VI,
the camera's just going to zero in on his face.
Until late in the evening of August 25, when the actual conclave began, within those days, and then in the, I think, from Friday evening until Saturday evening.
Okay, I'm going to tell you and show you they're one and the same. By the way, I had several pic triaves lined up and I don't need them. On the left is Malachi Martin, and on the right is William F. Buckley Jr. Malachi Martin, an insider, giving us all the scoop in the Catholic Church. I remember once even reading or him talking about there's devil worship in the Vatican, which is it's true. But once again, it's about controlling information and controlling any opposition or any contrary opinions or viewpoints, so that both sides are always controlled. So William F. Buckley, the date of his birth lines up within a few years of the date of birth of Malachi Martin. William F. Buckley on firing line was Roman Catholic. Of course, Malachi Martin is supposedly a Jesuit priest. And if you need more information about the Jesuits, you can just pretty much Google that or do a little more with YouTube. So once again, Malachi Martin, the Jesuit priest who makes appearances on William F. Buckley Jr. Firing line is William F. Buckley Jr. Malachi Martin, you're busted. You've entered into my hall of shame on Who is Who in hoaxology. Thank you for watching. End of video.